All right, I'll start recording now. I don't know, do you want to introduce yourself, Bola?
Yeah, sure. I'm Ballatw. I am a caster slash analyst for competitive Fortnite. I've been, I don't know, YouTube, Twitter, all this stuff for a long time. Educational content. Yeah, other than that, I've just been in esports for a while, man.
Hmm. Six God, do you wanna introduce yourself, I suppose?
Yeah, hey guys, my name's Sexpod or Sasha. I am a aspiring, analyst and commentator in the Fortnite and esports scene. I'm currently studying journalism at university, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this podcast.
Um, I'm Destiny's Jesus or Hugh. I'm UK mongrel and play Fortnite competitively slightly and do a bit of videos and analytical stuff as well. Um,
Slightly
I
though.
do. I try. I try.
Yeah, do a good job of it.
Yeah. Um. So I don't know. You just want to get straight into topics. So what made you start the What I Learned series? Because that was the first thing that you started posting and going and following with on YouTube.
Yeah. What made me start it? I don't know. I needed something for well, number one, I always wanted to make educational content.
Hmm.
And I always wanted it to be focused around pros, around competitive
Hmm.
Fortnite. And so it was an idea that I have been running around both in Counter Strike and Rainbow Six. I started playing, dabbling in that for a little bit, and then Fortnite came around, and I actually started, making content.
Yeah.
So um, there was an idea of using pro content or watching pros, see what they do, and then making content about that. And somebody, I think, what was his name? Somebody in Rainbow Six actually did basically that concept, and I was like, "That's awesome." So he kind of inspired me to start that. And I don't know, it was the right time. Summer skirmish was starting. I was like, I saw a bunch of stuff. I was already taking notes for myself, so I was like, let's just make this content. Let's
Hmm.
start doing it.
I think it was week 3 of the summer skirmish that you posted the first
Yeah.
What I Learned, wasn't it? And then just taking everything that people were doing and then sharing it to a lot of people helped grow.
Yep.
Do you have a question,
Yeah, I was
Sasha?
gonna ask how did Fortnite develop its niche into this kind of competitive scene? Where did you see the necessary developments for learning and competitive play, and like how did that all develop?
Um, so I mean, competitive Fortnite, it was always very obviously, it obviously always had depth from the beginning. I think back to the days of squad scrims and stuff like that. Like I think for
Mm.
me, my first introduction to it was the Ninja Vegas event, and just watching those end games, even though they weren't stacked, it was like two people in a small circle, and it was like, oh, okay. Um, but I don't know. There's always been depth to that, and I don't think anybody was covering it at the time. Really, the main thing was tips, tricks, short form things that people would use in pub games to get a lot of kills or whatever like that,
Yeah.
and nothing really catered to actually playing competitive Fortnite. And I don't know, I didn't like that, so I just I thought there was definitely a huge niche that was untapped.
Yeah, and competitive Fortnite's grown into like so much with the World Cup, and then you've definitely grown into fitting into that niche,
Yeah,
which is
and
quite a big market at the moment.
I saw on the competitive Fortnite Reddit, you just recently had a comment about you geeking out over all the different aspects of Fortnite play, whether it's the mental game or the positioning and the zone rotations and all of that. What to you is like your favorite part to study, your favorite part to learn about?
Right now, I mean, it changes all the time, right? But right now, I think the just multitasking aspect of the game, I think that's really undervalued or it's not talked about enough in terms of how many things people are doing in all stages of the game, but mostly end game. End game is like a cajillion different
Yeah.
things that you're trying to do at the same time, and Like honestly, like I'd love to compare like the APM, the actions per minute of a
StarCraft.
StarCraft Pro versus a
Yeah.
Fortnite Pro, because I have a feeling it's going to match up. Whereas you look at something like a game like Counter Strike, and sure they they have high actions, but decision making is also key. A lot of things are key in all games. It just feels like Fortnite is this just beautiful package of tons of different things, and I think multitasking is my favorite thing right now.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about like go back to when you started your series and then how you're able to turn making videos and improving at the game into actually competing at TwitchCon with Bumper. Just want to talk about that for a second and how you got into that role and position.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so again, I started playing the game probably back in March last year, and my friends were like, "You should stream," and I was like, "Okay." So what I mostly did was play the game right on my stream. Finally, I always knew I wanted to make educational content. I always had a plan of being like the day 9 of the Fortnite industry. But at the same time, I always wanted to play. I still was very good. I thought I was very good, and I thought I could compete. So I was doing that, and I also thought that would be a really, really good bridge into doing what I do now: casting, analyst, even a coaching position or something like that. Just so that I can, gain the trust of my peers in terms of the pro scene, and just the community in general. Be like, okay, this guy plays at a high level. He knows what he's talking about. He's not just bullshitting. So that was always a goal of mine, was to prove myself on the competitive stage and then transition from that. In terms of like competing at TwitchCon and finding Bumpa actually also made educational content. And so there was actually a conversation. Networking is super huge for me, as a content creator, as a streamer, all that stuff. And so I saw his videos. I thought they were good, and I started having a conversation by just like asking him a question, like, "Hey, how like I don't even remember the question now. I think it was in relation to like posting to Reddit or something like that." So and I was like, "Hey, we started networking. We started watching each other's streams or whatever." And then I was like, "Hey, I need a duo for FMPL. You wanna do this?"
Yeah, good old FMPL
yeah.
days. It's a throwback. So after TwitchCon, obviously you did quite well, 38th or something.
Yeah, 38th.
Right? And then, how I just want to talk about the meta of TwitchCon. So before TwitchCon, they changed where they introduced glider redeploy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Into all the core modes after trying it in the LTMs and stuff. And I just want to know your thoughts on glider redeploy, and I don't know the position it was put in TwitchCon, and then how it could be applied today. Maybe see a lot of people are starting to take glider redeploy in solos as the item, which is slower.
Yeah. Okay. So, you want opinion on glider redeploy as it was at TwitchCon and how it's transitioned and kind of grown into today?
Yeah.
I don't remember specific details about the history, but I know glider redeploy was a very, very sudden change. In at TwitchCon, right? I don't even think they tried it in LTMs before that. It was just
put it straight in,
all of a sudden there, and it was it was really, really good, but nobody really knew how good it could be and what they could do with it yet. I think the only people who really figured it out was Bizzle and Demo. At TwitchCon, I don't think anybody else figured it out at that point. I think everybody was just doing the basic like
turtling mid low ground. So low ground got nerfed heavily because everybody was sort of.
I think people realized that slightly at TwitchCon. The people who did well did realize that. Cloaksy, I was thinking specifically like Blinds was always and also always the people who were typically high ground players. But I think at TwitchCon people mostly used it for that, like, that first moving zone rotation. They would just build up and jump off, right? And that was it. And then the few weeks after that, people started realizing, okay, if you get, like, you can just go for high ground earlier and later, whatever. You could get high ground and just fight for it no matter what. That was interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there was also the Bizzle slash Demo God ramps that they were just well, not really even God ramps, right?
Just
But, like,
single
the
ramp,
weak
yeah,
ramps.
rushing up.
Yeah, single ramping up to the sky.
And there'll be no point shooting them out because you don't get
Yep.
any benefit from it because they can just redeploy.
Yep. And well, people did realize that you had to shoot them out eventually because otherwise they would just sit up there, steal all your kills or whatever. You also wanted to be in that position where you're the guy who people are making the decision to get shot out at.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely strong. I think it was fine though, but for me, when I think about these things, I never really think about them in terms of like, oh, are they too strong or are they too weak or whatever like that. I just think about where we're at and how we can use it and what we need to do to take advantage of this. Like, I don't care about balance, I'll be honest.
I mean, there's not much you can do as a player to affect other than just to use it yourself and then keep yourself on a level playing field.
Exactly. I mean, there's never a change where you can't. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say never. There's almost never a change where you're not going to be able to play the game in a similar manner, but you're always going to be able to take advantage or change and adapt. Where I don't know, I don't know exactly know where I'm going with that, but basically my philosophy is, it's in the game. Let's deal with it and play around it rather than, is this strong or is this good or is this weak or is this bad or whatever.
Yeah. And you can see, like, everybody's adapted to the changes. If you remember back to WSOE 3, where the boombox was introduced, people adapted to using the boombox, did well.
Yeah.
Whereas the people who played, like, low, they'd have their turtles disrupted, they'd have everything, and they get shot out and die. But then I think it was Psalm and Rux, if I'm right, who used it and
I think
then
it was Psalm and Rux.
did very well. And then obviously Season out of it did very well at that event.
Yep.
Same with the sword. Go on.
I just want to touch on that. Like, the glider redeploy is kind of like a movement item, and with different types of movement being introduced throughout the seasons, and especially now with it taking ahead and at the forefront of debates with the balders. Like, I know you said you don't really care about balance, but in your opinion, when was the movement the most balanced in the game?
The glider redeploy, like the original glider redeploy, right? Because everybody had it.
Everybody had it. Yeah.
It wasn't a thing of, oh, are you gonna loot this or whatever. That was the most balanced in terms of movement, 100%. I would love to see what that would look like right now with the current zone distance, the speed that they move, and all of that. That'd be awesome.
That could be interesting.
Just everybody having it just means it's balanced to me.
Remember the Shadow Stones? What in Season 5? Do you remember the Shadow Stones? What were your thoughts on those?
I love those, especially when you could B-hop with them.
Yeah.
They were so sick.
Foon across the map with them.
Yeah, they were awesome. And they never were like, you could, they weren't frustrating to play against because there was very obvious cues. You could see them. Yeah, I loved them. Though they were the equivalent of like the stationary rifts, right? I love the stationary rifts. They make the early game, risk in where you land much easier. So junk junction could be viable and stuff like that. Like the corner spots could be viable.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also just like the corrupted zones in general was an awesome place because they were stacked with mobility. There was a little bit of loot and there was a little bit, or there's a medium amount of mats. So it made it very, very important to go for those. And you would end up having fights because of it. I don't know. I love those location-based, like not super OP, but very important POI type of stuff.
Right. One more last question about glider redeploy. Do you think it will be used as much in duos this week? Now that it's been used so much in solos, do you think a duo is going to adapt and probably qualify with using glider redeploy? Or do you think it's just a solo type item?
Yes, I think we already saw a little bit of glider redeploy in week 2. I think it's a super strong item. One of the things is like it's not that common to actually find 2 glider redeploys, one for you and one for your duo, and that's when it really becomes strong. And I've seen like Aspect and Animal have pioneered that almost in NA. They used to do that a lot
In the cash cups, usually.
in the cash cups, and around like right after ESL Katowice, they were using it a lot, just dual glider redeploy, but they never really, took it unless they absolutely had to, if there's only one.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna touch on, since we're on the topic of movement and all that. We're recording this on Wednesday, but on Thursday they're implementing the Shadow Stones, which we touched on, like the Shadow Stone to go or the Shadow Bomb. Not really sure what it's called, but do you see that possibly being a replacement for movement items going forward in the next season? And what do you think a more balanced state would look like after the ballers are gone? Because the baller RNG would be replaced by the Shadowstone RNG.
So as far as I understand, there's like it's a grenade or something like that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how that would be. I literally can't even really imagine what it. So like maybe it puts you in a shadow form or something like that.
Yeah, maybe like a smoke bomb or something. I don't know.
If it puts you into Shadowstone, it might be kind of an advantage with the geyser hopping strategy that we see towards the northeast side of the map. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just interested to see how it all balances out in the future.
Yeah, it could be cool. I mean, one of the things is those really, really not. I don't know how to say it. Like impulses, you only get 3 at a time. Glider redeploy, you get 10. Right?
Yeah.
Impulses are not that useful, not only because you have to find a bunch, but because they also are throwable, and it's not something that you can just you actually have to try to aim it, and it's risky and all sorts of things like that. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work. But typically like throwables, man, they're interesting in terms of mobility. Shockwave grenades were really strong at a certain point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Impulse grenades not as much because you couldn't break through builds, so like they're very risky in that sense. I don't know. I have no idea what the item's going to look like. Could be cool, and I don't know. Just more mobility I like all in general, to be honest.
Yeah. Just one question: how you went from, you said you got a lot of connections and networking at TwitchCon, meeting with pros. How did you take that into casting? So I remember you casted the Korea Open qualifiers and the finals of that, since there wasn't an English stream available. Was that like your first time dabbling in Fortnite casting in general?
No, actually, the first time I dabbled in Fortnite casting was just casting the custom tests, the test matches that they would host every once in a while, and they didn't do them for a long time. And then when pop-up cups came out, they started doing a lot of customs. And I thought that, number one, it was a event that everybody wanted to watch because people wanted to see how pro games would work with the lowered mat cap, the siphon, and all that. So yeah, that was my first foray into Fortnite casting. And then even before that, I mean, even after that, before the Korean Open, I did I worked in overtime gaming 2v2 type event with a bunch of pros in New York. That was cool too. And then after that, I casted over the Korean Open qualifiers, not the finals, because finals did have Monster D-Face and Z casting in Korea in English.
Okay. Fair enough. And then from that, how did you get into casting? So obviously, you casted at the Secret Skirmish, which was that the first time you worked with Epic?
Yeah.
And
yeah, that was the first time.
How do they go about finding you? Because obviously they have contacts with like Courage and Lupo from other Fortnite events, but this is your first time going to an actual Epic event.
I tell people this all the time, but Epic is always watching, Epic is always listening, Epic is always, looking for content creators, looking for all that. And I think there was a post by I think Poach around ESL Katowice where he was like, dude, anybody who's done a lot of hard work in the scene has actually led somewhere in terms of Epic, like giving them an opportunity at least. I think he was referring to me and Speedy and coming from Reddit, and we did Katowice together.
Yeah.
But yeah, at TwitchCon I met Sundown, I met a few Epic people. Sundown, started following me on Twitter and stuff. I don't know how often he looked at stuff, but he told me he used to watch me a lot. He's always kept tabs on me. And then I went full time in January, and that week that I went full time, I messaged the guys that I knew. I said, hey, I'm going full time now. I would love to do anything for you guys if you need any casting, observing, anything like that. If you guys need any help, I would love to be a part of it. And Sundown immediately was like, yeah, dude, I'll put your name in the hat or whatever. And a week later, I got contacted and set up Secret Skirmish.
Fair enough. So what's it like backstage at an epic event? Because you posted on your Instagram where with the observing and then getting all the shots. Just can you describe briefly what it's like going through all of that motion backstage? It's a legit production, like like any TV or live event or anything like that. Obviously, you don't see that too often. I think there was a really good behind the scenes shot at PAX West where there was like the video of the observing team like cheering when they got something cool. The ops team. So there's an ops team, there's a replay team, and all these, and then there's like the actual directing team and whatever. They're all awesome. They all love the game. And so it's a lot of movement. Everybody is on comms with each other. They're all talking, trying to catch everything, trying to catch the stories, the action, all that stuff. So that's I don't know how to describe it other than saying it's definitely hectic, and it's really hectic and controlled at the same time. It's awesome. I would if you're interested in that stuff at all, I would definitely watch some behind the scenes of any sort of production. Like I kind of knew what I was getting myself into because I had like watched some of that stuff before, but it's fun being in terms of a live environment. It's awesome. In terms of the replay stuff though, that is for qualifiers, we don't have the full team that we would have for a live event like we had at Secret. So it's just me and the replay operator, and he does everything in terms of like getting highlights for breaks, putting together the packages that they watch on breaks, all that stuff, and then also the analysis and breakdown packages that me, Sundown, and a few other guys work on sometimes on that LED screen. So we watch the games together. I'm like, hey, that's cool. You should clip that, put that in my package, and he builds it with us. It's really fun. I've known a bit about it from just following CS for a while and knowing about the CS observers like Sapphire and Prius, I think it is. If you know who they are. It's definitely quite interesting. So that after his mic's got a bit of background. After Secret Skirmish.
I had a question. I just want to first of all, I just want to apologize for popping in and out. Just there's a lot of background noise going on, but Ballatw, what has been your favorite event or favorite memory or moment while casting an event so far?
So Katowice will win just by default by being like a live event with a crowd and stuff like that, and just having more. Well, I don't know if there's more at stake, but it feels like there's more at stake because of it's a stage, it's a LAN, all that stuff. So like Issa and Camo's moment when they went off and got like 12 kills or something like that in the first game of the second day of duos at Katowice was my favorite moment. Oh no, actually, you know what? I wasn't even casting for my favorite moment. It was Zate's Rift.
The Rift?
No, Zate's Rift. Yeah, I freaked out backstage at that.
I was watching that.
I literally freaked out.
Yeah, I think it was the casters didn't even realize at the time, but like because there was a separate view, you could see them just hopping down because they were spectating Zaf. I think Zaf.
Yep.
I was like, wow, that's just so intelligent to actually pull that off, and that pressure is just like, wow.
And then some of Saf's plays at Secret and Bizzle's clutch at Secret were amazing too.
Right.
I mean, there's been a lot of good moments recently too. Not that people have seen like crazy, like Tifu's clutch to qualify was pretty insane. I don't think people understand how nuts that was. I mean, it was a pretty trash lobby.
The final moving one,
Yeah. It was still really
He
clutch
did,
'cause he
yeah.
had no mats. He was low HP.
Your casting was like, you posted that the other day. Your casting that was really good.
Yeah, it was
Definitely.
nuts. And then even another moment in that was Psalm versus who was it that he was fighting to qualify? He fought Clicks literally in their last game. And I was lucky enough to realize that they were so close to each other that fight meant qualification. I didn't realize that far, but I knew it was very important that they were fighting. They were fighting for high ground, and literally that fight qualified Psalm and lost Clicks his qualification spot
Yeah.
because Psalm ended up winning, and it was just nuts. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Psalm is insane. I went back to watch all of his VODs. He's super, super good. That's probably a bad way of describing it, but he's really on point with everything he does.
Yeah, he's nuts.
Segmenting that from last week's solos qualifier, so Clicks, Miss Dan, you might have heard about the give Clicks a spot, and some people have asked questions about this. What do you think about the whole Ziv situation? Obviously, you don't want to say anything too serious, and you might not be able to. But
Yeah, so obviously there's a huge misconception. Before I get into this, there's a misconception or whatever that I like work for Epic. I don't work for Epic. I don't have any insight into what they're doing or anything like that. So anything that I say is literally just my own opinion and what I see based on people tweeting and whatever. So I have literally no insight. So take that with however you want. For me, the Ziff situation, it's another, like, whether or not the allegations are true or whatever, it's just really sucks that this stuff is always getting played out in public. Like it's a repeat of dubs, right?
Yeah.
And whether or not the conclusions are the same, like, it just sucks. I hate it. I wish we didn't do that. I wish we let Epic do what they do and just report it to them so that we could, we don't look like a bunch of twats, like,
yeah,
because we do. Like, every time we
Everybody-
do this, we look so stupid, and we delegitimize ourselves even a little bit more. And then the debate, goes on, like, oh, is there teaming at events?
Yeah.
And yes, these are very serious things that we need to deal with, and we need to figure out how to deal with. But it just sucks that it could tarnish somebody who's innocent, right? And we already saw like some of that with people talking about spades and crims. Like, I didn't look into that one too much, but the overall opinion seems to be like that was not true at all. But that could have gone in a certain way.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you got to be careful with that. And Ziff and Dubs' situation already definitely did go in a certain way, whether or not they are true.
Yeah.
And Epic has already commented, that there was no cheater besides the one they caught in the Dubs situation, so Dubs was cleared. I don't know, man. I just wish we didn't deal with it in public forums like that.
I think as a community, everybody's quite keen to just jump down people's necks. Like with Dubs, it was every single top pro, Tfue, Cloaksy, everyone just hopping down like a 14-year-old's throat and just saying, oh, he's cheating, look at all these clips, sharing videos of him from like 6 months ago during an old season that looked suspicious, and then when Epic released something, it's not really gonna like redo back the damage that's been done to somebody's reputation. Obviously, Dubs is a bit different because he's been playing with people and he's getting quite well known. He's got a lot of clout on his stream, but still, it's not good for a community image as a whole just to jump down people's throats like that.
And it's like not just the pros either. It's this whole YouTube scene, with the Fortnite guy, and just recently Bobby Bojangles. Everything just seems to be elevated by YouTube drama accounts, and I don't know. It's just an unhealthy state to be in. I would hate to be on the receiving end of the allegations, especially knowing whether or not it's true, and just hearing everything.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. I mean, and to be honest, like, Epic has so many more tools than the community does. And it's unfortunate because even if Epic looks into something and they realize it's not true, and we can look at I drop bodies for this example, right? They have the tools to look into things, whether people are queuing at the same time, whether people are repeatedly doing something, how long they've been friends. They have so many different tools that they can look into to be able to actually verify whether or not something is happening. And like in the I drops bodies case, like people didn't give a crap, even though that Epic realized and investigated that he didn't do anything, right? There were so many people who still believe I drop bodies, cheated in week 2 of Summer Skirmish. So many people, even though Epic made their investigation and they found that nothing was, wonky in his case.
Yeah. I don't know, he's still busy picking up his cousin from the airport, of course. But
well,
I mean, he's done pretty well for
you
himself.
You can't blame somebody for not wanting to be in the scene when something like that happens, right? I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened to, the shit that happened to Dubs. Sorry, can we curse on this?
Yeah, just go ahead. You've made it raw.
All right, cool. the shit that happened to Dubs pushed him out of the scene, right? If he didn't qualify, or if there wasn't something that he had to look forward to, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy never come back, right? Like, why would you want to be part of this something that doesn't want you? Like, it's ridiculous.
I was talking to Ziff actually, because I wanted to go through his replays on stream and talk to him about it, and he felt the exact same way. It's like he did so well during the actual other games that it's just one specific game that's been looked at, and everybody's just jumping down his throat like early, when nothing's actually been released by Epic to incriminalize him. Doesn't make sense, but he feels the exact same way as you're just describing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much more to say about Ziff.
So I guess we'll move on to World Cup qualifiers, because a lot of people are interested in your predictions and sort of your takeaways from who's already qualified. I mean, from different weeks, and if there were surprises, or if some people have qualified you didn't expect, or if people have qualified or who haven't qualified that you think would have qualified already. I mean, so
sorry, did you want to follow up or no?
So this week, I'll just go through the people who qualified from NA East. Was there any who surprised you? Maybe Unknown Army?
Unknown Army for sure, but I also saw him in, what was it, Blackheart Cup. He was disgusting at that in Blackheart. The fact that he qualified is surprising. The fact that he's actually doing well in these wasn't, right? I wouldn't expect him to qualify though, so that was nuts. Some other people from NA East, Funk Mom. Like, I didn't expect to qualify that early. Like, I expected him to be one of the few people from FaZe, from the original FaZe. That would have a chance. And then obviously Tfue was a surprise to me. I knew he had the potential. I knew he could do it if he put his mind to it, and I guess he did.
Definitely did.
I wasn't expecting him to be able to, flip that switch and just all of a sudden be a beast again. Because we all know that he's a really, really good player when he's thinking and playing very, very hard. But the last couple of weeks, he's just been complaining, and I just didn't expect it from him. I really didn't.
What about from NA West? Epic Whale, and I believe it was Stepro Karu, who qualified, and some big names like Scented, K-Yoon, people like that who are signed to big name organizations didn't qualify. Did that surprise you as well? And what do you expect moving forward from that region?
West is a difficult region in general, just because there's only 2 spots up for grabs every week. So it's going to be hard, and I think there's clearly going to be shakeups just because of the 2 spots. Epic Whale is somebody I've been keeping my eye on. He's disgusting. I'm not surprised that he qualified. Karhu, I've never heard of, and I'm really happy that I have heard of him because it is really awesome. The interview we did with him at the end of the day was fantastic. I love the emotion that he showed, the personality. It's awesome to see that. In terms of Scented, Scented will qualify. We have 3 more weeks of solos. He's going to qualify. Kayun was a surprise to me. He came out of nowhere pretty much, and like obviously we know Kayun is good, but I hadn't seen him performing recently, and all of a sudden he performed very well. Unless I'm, maybe there's so many players. It's sometimes you don't always see everything. Let me actually go back and look where he placed in week 1. I don't remember seeing him at all. Yeah, no, not anywhere in the top 50. So that was a surprise to me for sure.
And then from the smaller regions where they only get a couple spots, Brazil, Imlays, and Kurtz qualified this week. And then Oceania, Cat Taking Walls qualified. Does any of that surprise to you?
I had never heard of Cat Taking Walls.
Neither.
He's a beast, though. Lasers I had never heard of. I think the Kurtz guy is actually Leleo's duo.
Yeah.
Leleo qualified the first week, but let me actually just verify that real quick. Quasar, yeah, I don't know if that's true, but they're on the same team at least. So, no, okay, they're not duos. But yeah, that team is good. Seems like there's a powerhouse of a couple of teams in Brazil that are like gonna qualify every week, being 9Z, Quasar, and what was the other one? W7M, right?
And then from everybody's favorite region, EU.
Yeah.
Was there anybody?
EU's interesting, man.
any surprises? I mean, we've got the most spots, so
I think
ideally,
every single spot here is a surprise, right?
Do you think?
Like, I'll be honest, like I know everybody here has the potential to qualify, but I didn't expect every single 8 spots to be, filled out with somebody who just has the potential in my eyes, right? Like I know every single one of these guys. Well, I have never heard of Lucky, or Lucky. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
No, he's just.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him. Left Eye, Fleeter, Moist, Teachup, Core Gaming, Wakey, Boom, Dementos. Like, I've heard of every single one of them. I know they had the potential to qualify. I did not expect every single one of those spots to be filled with somebody like them. There's the crazy big names they're missing, like Mongrel, Mitro, Mr. Savage. Heck, even Benji was playing, and he's not up there.
Yeah.
There's Shinkin, Boyer, Kripa, Skite. Like these guys are not performing in solos so far, and it's interesting because like it's kind of the opposite in duos. In duos so far, only people that we knew qualified in Europe, right? But in terms of NA East in duos, it was very much up in the air. It wasn't people that I normally would have guessed, right? But in solos in NA East, it's typically people that I've at least, I don't know. Last week was a little bit of a shakeup, but it was people that I expected to qualify 100% for the most part, except for like Unknown Army and maybe Niddle and Tifu. But Psalm, Ziff, Funkbomb, I expected to qualify at some point.
So from EU, is there any players that you think aren't really performing in the solos? Because Mitro and Mongrel obviously have already qualified for duos, and same with Mr. Savage, but they haven't qualified for solos just yet. Do you think they're going to be able to make it in coming weeks?
I don't know. I haven't seen Mitro up anywhere in terms of the solos. He was up at the top of the leaderboards for like first couple of games.
Yeah.
Looks like he got 34th this week.
Yeah.
So that that's a good sign. If he's getting top 50, that's a good sign. Mongrel did well the first week. I don't know what happened this time, but
he did well in the semis, and then
he did very, very well in the semis. Mongrel will qualify in solos. I'm not worried about him. Mitro is a great player as well, and he's known to have popped off in events like this before, right? Like I think he still holds the solo record to this day in pop-up cups.
Yeah,
all the way back when they were actually a thing. So he'll perform in this format. The French guys, though, I think are missing so far. I think the only guy is who was it? from LDLC. What was his name?
Nate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the rest of
But
the
we're missing Sky, like you know,
Sky,
like
yeah.
Airwax, Sneakoff.
That
A
are
lot of
streaming.
the really, really good players are not qualifying yet in Europe for solos.
Do you think possibly that duos is more set? Like there's less randomness that goes on in duos week to week because there is two players compared to solos, possibly.
I think we will see that at the end of this whole 10-week shenanigans stuff. But yes, I think duos definitely people will like the 100. Like I don't know, duos. There's always gonna be less variance because you're pairing people together. Like just inherently, there's gonna be less variance in duos because there's less variables, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're always pairing two people together. So like in solos, there could be a bunch of people who, you know, don't have great duos, so they do well. And even though there could be established duos who would do both well in solos, now there's much more variance because there's a bunch of extra solo players who are going to pop off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that. I think we will definitely know whether or not that you know, that assumption that people make that duos is more competitive or more or less random. I think we'll see at the end of this 10 weeks, right?
Do you think that like regions like NA could use some kind of organized tournament format like the European region has in the Yasim Cup? You think that that could provide maybe a little bit of an advantage for practice outside of customs?
Yes and no. I think EU's having an issue right now, and I'm studying it a little bit because I wanted to start some of our own tournaments here in NA exactly the same as Jason Cup, but I think EU's running into an issue where people don't care outside of those tournaments now, and then the practice scene suffers because of that. I think the ideal solution would be a league or some sort of structured different tiers where you would play in leagues rather than any sort of just one-time tournaments like week after week. I don't know how that'd work, but I think that'd be ideal.
Yeah, it's quite hard to get a lot of I don't know, money into this scene because Yasim and then the EU monkeys, it's all sponsored just by third-party people who just put money in and then watch Fortnite. But
yeah, it's also kind of unclear whether that's actually allowed, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even sure if customs are allowed to be used as tournaments, and I've also been trying to research that a little bit.
Yeah, I have a hunch that as long as the sponsors aren't named in tournaments, that it should be fine. But I don't know. From my perspective, I feel like the European players have more of an incentive to play for end games of just popping off because they have the money on the line and they have the points. While people in NA just it's definitely still practice, but I don't know. I feel like watching some people stream, it's less of an incentive.
So going into like the final weeks of the World Cup, you're going to be going to New York as a caster, Ballatw. Is there anything like what's your thing that you're most looking forward to going there? Is it to meet everybody who's qualified? Is it to cast with a live crowd again? What would it be?
Whether I go there as a caster or not, I'm just looking forward to some really, really good competitive Fortnite, man. That's what I'm looking forward to the most is the games. I hope it will blow everybody's minds. I hope that they will be fantastic and there will be no issues. And even if there are slight issues, I just want it to go well because that means the future is secure for us.
Yeah.
I'll be honest there. Not only is the future secured, but I love some good games, man. They're awesome. It's crazy to watch. I love when the stories get developed. I love when it's tight at the top of the standings. It's just awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna go into some like questions that people have asked us from Twitter.
Cool.
What are your thoughts on people's competitive attitude towards Fortnite and not enjoying playing the game, and then do you think that impacts the results? Because we've seen like Vivid, he really dislikes the state of the game, and he said so on stream. That's why he doesn't stream as much. But I mean, he still gets really good results, right? And then there's some other people who obviously don't like the state of the game, and then do bad because of it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that you can have the mentality that Vivid has, and be a competitor by splitting, your brain, or I don't know, your behavior into two kind of modes, right? Where if you're on stream or whatever, or you can just be completely honest with yourself, you might not, enjoy what you do currently, but when it comes down to it, if you play competitively, you're going to be insane, and you're going to completely get that out of your mind. Like if you die to stink grenades, it might be frustrating, but you just get it out of your mind. It doesn't matter. That's the game we play. Move on. You have to be positive, right? If you're not, then you're gonna end up not doing well. And it's funny because like if you don't do well, if you do well, you're never gonna have those situations where you're gonna be able to complain, right? I don't know. Bizzle's a weird one because he constantly does well, and when I see him playing all the time, he's constantly raging about it and not having a good time at all. But I think he's also very finicky based on what is actually happening, right? But he qualified, so he'll have to do it again.
So Bizzle and Demo, haven't actually qualified yet. Do you think they're going to be able to make it as a duo in NA?
Yes, I hope so.
I hope so. Yeah,
I really enjoy watching them. I think when they get down to it in a 100 pro lobby, they are one of the best duos we've seen. So it would be a shame if they didn't make it. But they clearly have shortcomings in this format. They need to fix it. We'll see whether or not they're going to be able to have any improvement over last week's performance, because I don't think they did well at all last week.
All right, another Twitter question is: of all of the duos,
oh sorry, they got 19th. My bad. They got 19th. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
so
pretty good.
That means
within
they
reason.
probably qualify 100%.
Yeah. Right. So right now, out of all the people who have qualified and who haven't qualified, what do you think is going to be the strongest duo, like powerhouse wise, going into World Cup? Obviously, it's a different meta and season and stuff, but
NG and Mr. Savage. I mean, everybody wants to know what they're going to be able to do on a live environment and whatever. But they're stone cold, man. They're stone cold, and we've seen it time and time again. I can't wait for them to experience LAN and all that stuff, because it's gonna be different, man. It's gonna be different.
Yeah, definitely. Another question is, with the average age of people who have qualified being, I think it's 17 from all the weeks current, makes you feel quite old, doesn't it? But do you think all of the I mean, I'm 19 and everybody's I'm 19.
Jeez, man.
Everyone who's qualified is like 14, 15. There's a guy who's 13 from Brazil, wasn't he? And so they've all qualified. Do you think they're going to be able to keep calm under pressure on LAN? I mean, it's the first time going to LAN for Mr. Savage and Benji. Mongrel's been to like one LAN, a very small one. Do you think they're going to be able to cope under pressure compared to people like Bizzle, who's been to multiple?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it'll be tough for them.
Definitely.
But then again, these young guys, they are the most prone to be able to adapt, right? And I think they will figure it out pretty quickly. So I think you might even see a difference between, the day one versus day two for people who qualified both.
Okay.
There was a question regarding your opinion on the current FOV debate. I remember when the announcement first came out on Twitter, you were vocal about it, about trying to understand what the change meant. And you said that if we are being forced to play 16 by 9, that you'd be very upset. how do you feel now that the debates evolved a bit more with Epic's most recent statements?
I'm not quite following exactly what the reasoning behind this is, and why they're forcing the res. I mean, 16.9. It's really strange because Epic is a company that has. I mean, Fortnite specifically is successful because of how well they've done on all sorts of platforms. And like being able to customize on even they're even great on mobile, so like it's strange to me that all of a sudden we are not supporting monitors that aren't in the range of 16.9. Hold on a second, let me let my cat out, she's freaking out. Sorry. Yeah, I don't. I still don't quite understand it. And I tweeted a little bit about what my thoughts were about that, just because like there's always going to be things we can customize. There's always going to be things we can customize. They can't if they force us to all play on on a certain set of things where we can't customize everything or anything. Unfortunately, their game would not. It would just wouldn't be anymore, right? Like you can't do that just because there's different performance specs. There's different peripherals that people are using. People are using controllers versus keyboards, whatever.
Colorblind
So
modes
yeah,
at the moment
they have to support people who are colorblind or deaf. Well, they don't have to, but they made the choice to, right? And so like I don't know, there's a certain level of me where I'm like, why are we going against customability instead of just embracing it, right? And it feels like we did embrace it. Why aren't we just embracing it more? And it felt like we were getting there too. It felt like we were getting to the point where we would be supporting custom reses, right? I even remember that, like, and beyond even just like the secret skirmish and like Iso Katowice, like supporting custom reses. I remember like a blog post or something like that where they were moving towards being able to use custom reses. So it's just a sudden shift that it doesn't make too much sense to me. Whether or not I'm still gonna does it make a difference to me personally? It does make a difference for me in terms of like the longevity of the game, but I don't think it's a huge deal. More than people like it is a big deal, right? But it's not going to kill the game or anything like that. I would love to know exactly what the thought process is, why certain things are okay to customize versus not okay. I don't know.
Yeah,
they've got to have more. I don't think I still don't think we're getting the full picture here.
No. So about adapting to the current meta and how the young players are the best at adapting to the current meta. What are your thoughts on the current baller meta? You saw 3 out of 6 of the NA East qualifiers. They all went to the exact same baller spot north of Pleasant Park. And in EU, a lot of the players actually just dropped straight onto a baller as well who qualified. What are your thoughts on how that impacts not just the early game and mid game, but how that impacts the end game? Do you think it's done specifically for performance of the servers, perhaps, where they want a specific amount of people in ballers not building to help the servers? Is that maybe a reason why they're in the game?
I don't think so. I don't think that's plausible. I think even before ballers, we had many proof that the servers were getting better. In pop-ups, right? I think there was a lot of frustration in customs, but I think they've done so much behind the scenes to help the servers. Like, when's the last time you heard somebody complain about specifically like server lag? I haven't seen it in forever. Even if ballers weren't a thing, I think we would have seen it, and I think we would have gotten people to complain about it outside of customs, right? Because customs for a long time, it was clear to me that customs were not running on the same supported creator customs were not running on the same servers as pop-ups. That was very obvious.
Yeah.
And with the season ending in just around a week from now, how do you think? Obviously we're not sure if ballers are still going to be in the game, but saying let's just pretend that they're not going to be in the game. Let's just say they're not. How do you think the duos who currently and the players who currently use the balls? How do you think they'll have to adapt to, readapt rather to the meta?
I think the smart ones are not going to need to do any adapting, because I believe that if they think that ballers are going to disappear, they're not just practicing that. And I also think that any smart player is not being a one-trick pony. Sure, they will use it in tournaments. Sure, they will qualify with it. Sure, they will practice it a lot, but they're also practicing other methods. So like Psalm is specifically somebody who definitely is not, leaving the rest of his fundamentals on the table. I don't think there's anybody who's not, is going to drop off just because ballers are gone. I don't think that's the case. I think we have proven time and time again in the last 3 weeks that you can't just use a baller to qualify. All right.
No.
You just can't. You have to get kills and you have to close out the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using a baller and you're not getting any kills, you have to literally close out every single game that you play.
Do you think the possible removal of the ballers will make the games more competitive towards endgame?
Yes, I think so. I think the ballers have added a level of uncontrollable RNG over the current, over a competitive game. I think like there's variance now because there's all of a sudden these unknown elements that are making all the way to endgame, right? Whether or not they're the elements that will 100% win a game when they have the opportunity, like Psalm, or there are people that just don't know or have no clue what is going to happen towards the end game. Well, they'll just ruin somebody's game because of it. Or, there'll be so many that they're overwhelming. Like I've seen many, many stacked games because of all the end games that I've casted. I've seen many, many games where there's 15 top tier pros, and all of a sudden they're all gone at the end game because there were so many ballers that just get overwhelmed, right? They get overwhelmed and they get removed from the game, not necessarily because of a baller, but just because of how many variables there are in the air. But I think it's I don't know where this assumption that we're going to be losing ballers is coming from. I don't think we've seen any hints that they're going to get removed.
Right. I'm just saying, theoretically, but the World Cup is going to be played over a couple of seasons. The qualifiers will be played over a couple of seasons. So I'm just talking about the future.
So with the potential removal of ballers, do you think that the game is going to be in a better state now that it's removed? Do you think it's going to be more competitive oriented? Do you think the better players are always going to be on top since there's not that randomness of going on a baller?
Yep. I think we'll see less heal-offs. I think we'll see the resurgence of 1v1s in the end game and not stacked like 4 or 5 people in the final zone. I think literally there's a correlation between baller health and how far the end game goes. I think ballers have literally all of a sudden somebody, I don't remember who it was, but all of a sudden or somebody said glider redeploy is the cause of a lot of heal-offs coming back, but it's ballers 100%. Glider redeploy is not causing that. I think legit ballers are forcing heal-offs, and I don't like that, and I think that's uncompetitive.
Definitely. Because I think you can have the game of your life. You can have glider redeploy, jump pads, double rift, amazing RNG. You can use all of that going into endgame, but you're still going to have less mats than a person who's been in the ball. The person in the ball is going to have 1,400 mats. They've tried to get out and build a couple bases, and then they're going to take the game to a heal off, and that's where it comes more RNG dependent, because obviously you had good loot to get in that spot, but the person in the ball will always have the advantage on mats going into endgame. And mats is the most crucial thing, really.
Exactly, and the person in the baller can play with that in mind, whereas not to win a heal off, to make heal off strategic and fun and competitive. People have to be playing for heal offs throughout the game, right? I loved heal offs back when they were a thing before TwitchCon, right? We used to play FMPL and we'd only play placement, so everybody it was very, very stacked games all the time. But we'd have 6, 7 team heal offs, and I was always under the impression that it was very competitive because everybody was preparing for it and everybody was making an effort to go get as many slurps, campfires, and medkits that they can, right?
Yeah,
but if one person is playing for that and other people are not playing for that, then it's like you can't. It is a complete gamble, right? For everybody who's not playing for it.
Yeah. I mean, that was before Siphon was introduced, where going for late game kills would put you in the advantage, because right now if you get a kill, like let's say as soon as ninth close, you kill the guy below you, you're gonna have the health advantage on the guy at the bottom bandaging, more than likely. But so you've seen, like, I remember back in FMPL, nobody would have a lot of kills in end game, whereas with Siphon now, it's definitely healthy for the game where a lot of people can just run around having pop-off games like Epic Whale, just running around mid-ground, just chaining kills together with a lot of pump shotgun shots, and that's definitely good for spectators to watch.
Yep.
Another question is with, like, a lot of people signing to orgs. You saw Donny, who was it? He joined Complexity as an analyst, and a couple of other people. I think it's Convertible signed to Gunfly. Yeah, FlyQuest even. So, have you been talked to by any orgs? Have you just been full on with casting? Just out of interest.
Yeah, I've talked to a few orgs, but I'm not really that interested. I did think at a certain point that I would want to get into coaching, analyst, whatever, for certain teams or whatever. But that was always going to be a means to an end. I always wanted to be where I am right now. So I think I don't really need to. Maybe eventually I'll transition back to that. But right now I don't feel the need to to go for that. I would love to. I think it's fun and I think it's engaging. But this is my end goal right now.
Yeah, you definitely enjoy it, and then going out to, how far do you have to travel? Because you're based in NA East, aren't you?
yeah, it's a 6-hour flight.
6-hour flight every weekend that you go. It's quite. I mean, it's definitely enjoyable to hear you on the cast with everybody else as well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
What was it? You get like 50k views in the main stream, don't you? At some points during the games. And then I imagine the World Cup viewership's going to be insane. The actual finals. And then imagine the week 10, how intense that will be. Everybody going into that.
I can't wait.
It's definitely going to be exciting. I mean, and how life-changing it is for everybody's qualified. The amount of, like, young people that have qualified as well. Definitely interesting. Another question I have is something you talked about. So we were talking about the Fortnite guy earlier. I'm not going to talk about him too much, but what's your thoughts on the state of the comp sub at the moment? Because obviously you posted your first ever videos on there with what's it called, the What I Learned videos, and how do you think it's, like, gone around and changed recently?
Sure, there's a lot of complaining, a lot of negativity, and blah 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 blah. But I go there for, discussing events. I go there for strategic, tactical content.
Yeah.
And I go there for news.
Yes. Okay.
I don't filter it out, but I just, like, don't look at it at all.
Yeah.
I think it's good for me right now. Like, I've had issues with it in the past.
Yeah.
Where literally every single post was a complaining post. That was a big deal. Every single post was, trashing on some pro or the casters or whatever like that. Like during summer skirmish,
That was
really
awful.
bad.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Everybody was just on hate trains.
Yep,
non-stop.
hate trains. And then
threads.
I could not stand Meme Monday. But right now it's a decent state, in my opinion. Much love to that subreddit.
Do you have any final questions, Sasha?
No, I don't. We touched pretty much on everything that I had planned.
Okay. I don't know. That's about all I had to ask, really. Do you have any closing statements, I guess, that you want to talk about?
No, not really. I mean, this game is awesome. I hope that it continues to grow.
Yeah.
It's freaking sick.
What do you think of
and
the?
You guys are doing great work. Like Destiny's you on the comp sub.
Yeah.
Keep it up, brother. Keep it up. Sasha, I'm not too familiar with your work, but I hope to see you more, man. You gotta.
I've only done a couple of things. I'm just really getting into it, but I've only had a couple interviews.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm trying to make my way up there, you know.
Nice, nice. Well, guys, thank you for having me. By the way,
It's great talking to you. Are you on the thing tomorrow with Tim and Speedy?
that's not tomorrow. That's next week.
Next week? Oh, okay. I've got the dates mixed up.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing that. And are you there this week at the? Are you at Epic?
No, I'm not there
No.
this weekend.
Okay. All right.
Well, go ahead and drop your socials. Make sure everybody's following you on whatever platforms you need them to.
Cool, yeah. It's Ballatw everywhere: Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. Not on Facebook yet, but yeah, we'll see you guys there.
Thanks for talking, Ballatw. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. That was fun. I love these things.